So I won't keep it too long. I'll just give you a quick little we've always been doing the podcast. It's been going on for years, and we've
Yeah.
kind of I've done a film about mental health, and we kind of find that we're talking a lot about it with different kinds of people on the show. And I
Sure,
saw what
sure.
you've been up to, and we decided to do sort of like a bi-monthly show, half an hour, just dedicated to mental health in the heavy music world. Not necessarily heavy metal, but just, the heavier side of things. And I
Sure.
figured you would fit in perfectly, and I knew you'd want to jump in. So, with
Yeah.
that being said, I think I have a bunch of questions, but I like to do this really naturally. So let's just
Let's do
jump
it.
in and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing, and then we'll use that as a springboard.
Sure, absolutely. Well, my name's Tim. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada, and sitting here in the studio, and we were just talking about 70,000 tons of metal, which is where we met. And as we were just saying, it is kind of like that yearly walkabout that true heavy metal fans do every year, and they walk to Mecca, as you said,
Right.
and go and worship on the 70,000 tons of metal. So that's where we met. But I've got a band called the Mighty One. Been around for, oof, man, I think we're coming up on 15 years now. I've been doing the Mighty One, which started out with working with the Devin Townsend project and having Devin actually produced my first single, and the band was rehearsing right here for the first Devin Townsend project albums because the drummer Ryan Van Poederoyen was my roommate downstairs here. So
Oh, really?
that's kind of how we met and how the Mighty One got started. So, but we've been going now, third record, fourth record on the way right now. Had a really big single last year called "Kickin' Stones," which did really well. I think we're up around 400,000 streams, which for an independent band is pretty damn good.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and it was focused totally around mental health and the way that the song was written about my best friend and drummer that I grew up with, and we actually were in a management and record deal with Paul Stanley from Kiss,
Oh, wow.
and unfortunately he got sick. I guess that was about 15 years ago now, and then he suffered with cancer for the longest time. And in 2016, just before Christmas, he took his own life. And this song, "Kickin' Stones," that I'm talking about, we had actually written together in 1993, believe it or not. And
Wow.
I had never released it because it was right after that whole Paul Stanley deal. Things were pretty tumultuous when that whole thing fell apart, and it just kind of sat on the shelf. And then, of course, music had changed, right? That's why the deal fell apart, because the whole grunge scene started, and hair metal was just not cool anymore. So, I just stuck all that stuff on a shelf and moved on. But then when I was writing the Torch of Rock and Roll album, I was like, damn, that song would be perfect on this record, because the Torch of Rock and Roll album is very much almost an autobiography. And so having that story in there was so good, but also focusing around the whole mental health issue and suicide prevention, because it's probably the biggest challenge of our time right now. The world is crazier than it ever was. I work with a lot of kids, and kids are just like, they're unsure whether there is actually a future for the world and for humanity. And waking up every day and going into the world in a positive way, like you and I did when we were growing up, is hard for kids now.
Yes.
It's hard, with environmental concerns, and everything's expensive. Mom and dad are freaking out because it's hard to get things done. All that stuff. It's a real challenge. So mental health is a really big deal. I mean, thank God we've got music. I mean, I use music not only to tell stories and to talk about this stuff, and have it to be almost a soundtrack to some of these issues so that we can talk about it. I mean, it's why you and I are here. Um, excuse me. However, um, the problem is real. The problem is real. And I believe it takes daily maintenance, personal maintenance on ourselves in order to keep that monster at bay. You know
So
what I
I want to
mean?
go back. I want to go to those points in a second, but I also want to say you mentioned it sort of. I think this kind of music, especially the heavier stuff, is super cathartic, right? For the writer and for the listener.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's a way to let the monster out, you know, let the monster out and to be at peace after you've let the monster out. So I mean, this is why going to a heavy show, and if you're into the mosh pit, what a great way to release all of that angst and all of that pressure and all of that anger with a bunch of people that are, it's probably the biggest, warmest, loving family that you've ever met, you know, even though the music is like, people from the outside go like, "Oh my God, how can this be a loving family with
Hey,
all this crazy ass music going on and screaming and, you know, wow, it's just like overwhelming, but it is." And you say, as you say, it's a very cathartic experience, and it's why also I think that rock and metal have not waned. Yes, they got pushed to the background for a while. And yes, they are in sort of in their own little family now, but they have never waned. And a lot of the kids that I see now, because my daughter's 14, you know, they're wearing the Metallica shirts, they're wearing the AC/DC shirts, they're wearing the, you know, the Slayer shirts. You know, do they listen to those bands all the time? I don't know if they do or not, but a lot of them do. My daughter's
right.
told me, she said, this is a playlist of a buddy of mine, you know, and here it is. And I'm just like, wow, this stuff is alive with this next
Right.
generation, you know?
So let's go back to those points. And you said you sort of have to wake up every day and keep the monster, as I think those are the words you used, at bay. What
Yeah.
are some of those to anybody that's watching that wants to, try and apply some of this? What are some of those things?
Well, here, the biggest and the easiest one is exercise. And it doesn't have to be 2 hours at the gym, you know? I don't know if you know, but I also work as a coach and as a counselor with people, and I do a lot of sessions. But one of the things that I've been doing now, I think I'm on day, what's today? Day 1831. So 1831 days in a row, I've been getting up every morning and I do a 7 minute workout, just a hit workout, like a high intensity interval training. Just get the blood flowing, right? Just get the heart pumping, get the blood flowing. I've been using the same song every single day. Um, I wished I had an angel by Nightwish. That's the song
Oh,
that I use
nice.
in the
Yeah.
morning. Yep.
And everybody's got 7 minutes.
Everybody's got 7 minutes. And the scientific proof of this is that it releases antidepressants and feel good drugs from your brain. But the only way that that happens is by raising your heart rate and your blood pressure and really getting just a little bit of a sweat. You know, when you can start to feel the sweat on the back of your neck, boom, that stuff is released. So I think that that's one of the number one keys. I have a 4-step program. The second one is to do some breathing. So afterwards, just feeling yourself, feeling your blood pumping, feeling your heart pumping, and just being grateful to be alive. Because gratitude, I think, is a big one, a great antidepressant. And then and then just visualizing what it is you want, either in your day or maybe you got a bigger goal. Like mine has been holding a Grammy in my hand. It's been there
Right.
since day one, holding a Grammy in my hand. And then I just simply I write somebody a message that I know that needs support, okay? And I have lots of friends that do. And I'll probably write something out into social media, something positive, maybe something that will inspire somebody or help somebody get out of a deep hole that they're in, right? But checking on your friends, that's so important. So those 4 steps every day, I swear to you, will keep the monster at bay.
So, how do you think the portrayal of mental health issues in the, I'm going to just say heavy music because it can include rock as well or whatever, but how do you think it's evolved since the inception, since the 70s or whatever? Well, I'll let you take it and then I'll give you my.
Sure. Sure. Well, I mean, let's face it. I think that back in the day it wasn't talked about at all. I mean, it was just kind of we were living on the surface. I say there's always 2 ways to approach life, and that is like a fish that swims on the surface, and a fish that dives deep once in a while. So we didn't dive very deep back in the day. We were more concerned about, whatever political issues or, whatever it was, right? Those sort of external things. We never really looked that much at the internal things. And if there was internal problems, we drowned them in drugs and alcohol. That's just what we
Yes.
did.
Right, right.
But you wouldn't believe the amount of heavy metal people I know now that are some of the most straight edge people I've ever met.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they're vegans and they're drinking smoothies and then they go out on stage and just absolutely rip it.
Hey, yes.
So so I think what has changed is the whole approach to life, the whole approach to this human experience and looking at it with a very clear eyes, you know. Whereas back in those days, I think a lot of us, and I know I was for sure, it was a very clouded vision. And we thought we had to be drunk, we thought we had to be high, we thought we had to have girls every single night, and that those were the main things. Those were our feel good things.
The
Where that's
escapes.
Yeah, it's changed. It's changed a lot.
So then, right along those lines, then, how do you think the misconceptions or what misconceptions you think still exist about the relationship between heavy music and mental health? Because there's quite a few of them still, right? I know we've broken some, but there's still quite a stigma, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's from people who have never experienced heavy music or have not been open to entertaining, the whole psychology of heavy music, right? So I think that the stigmas simply come from ignorance. But if you really do your research and you look at some of these amazing new artists that are out there these days, you'll see that it's a completely different. I mean, it's even a healthier approach than what's happening, for instance, in pop music. I mean, look and hip hop and stuff like that. I mean, look at the whole Diddy thing and everything that's gone on. You don't see a lot of these kind of things happening in metal. It's a lot cleaner of an industry, and it's a lot cleaner of an approach to life.
And it's so weird because that's not the perception from those outside of it, right? It's almost a 180 from that perception.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I think that just comes from the past. I think that comes
Right.
from a reputation of the past, right? I mean, some of our super excessive grandfathers are completely transformed. I mean, look at somebody like Rob Halford, clean as a whistle
Unbelievable.
now, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and almost into a devout kind of approach to
And the
life,
best he's ever been.
and the best he's ever been, right? Here is a guy coming, I think he's 70 already. Is he 70?
Yeah, 71
Yeah.
or 2, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And still out there touring like crazy, probably doing better shows than he ever did. And so, you know, and then you can also look at somebody like Ozzy, which I love Ozzy. He was such a huge influence, but you can also see how those excesses have now come to haunt him in such a big way, right? And so we're at a time of where we've been transformed in a lot of ways, from this sort of what was considered from the outside to be, dirty and repulsive, heavy metal, to like, wow, this is a way for people to actually release some of these things that are holding them down, that are imposing themselves on their psyche and on their emotional well-being. And it's a very healthy thing.
So I think even what to tag on to what you're saying, metal has always been a way to kind of challenge the norm or challenge the, I don't know, authority, if that's the word, but
Yeah.
challenge, right? That's kind of what it was built on. So that makes sense because you can challenge all those, mental health or all those stigmas and all that bullshit, and it fits right in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a very and it's interesting to watch things evolve, right? And watching metal evolve, the music obviously has evolved a lot because it's more technical than it's ever been in a lot of ways. There's a lot, there's still your straight ahead bands, but there's a lot more technical approaches. There's a lot of different subgenres that are very, very interesting, and there's also new ones being created all the time as we get these different hybrids. And so um yeah, things are not normal, but things have evolved very beautifully, and creativity should be that way. I honestly believe that creativity should be an ever evolving situation where we're constantly taking what we have done and reinventing ourselves, you know? And that's what I see happening.
So we talked a lot about it, or a little bit about it. You mentioned it, I've mentioned it. How do you think the heavy music community, or what role do you think they play in all of this? Because the
I think
community is pretty tight, even though it's spread globally, right?
Yeah, well, I think they play a great role in an example of what a musical family can be. As we said, there's really no other music on the planet or music community on the planet that is closer and that is tighter than the heavy metal music community, People take care of each other, people care about each other. I mean, just go and watch a mosh pit. People are going crazy, and it looks like everybody's fighting and everything's going mad. But if somebody falls down, everybody like picks them up and takes care of them. You
Yep.
know what I mean? If someone's having trouble, whatever. I mean, seeing people in wheelchairs,
Right. I've definitely seen at 70K actually. Yes.
you
Surfing
know,
on top.
yes, exactly. Exactly. So that whole approach to knowing that a music community is a family and that the family takes care of each other, the antithesis of that is definitely 70,000 tons, what Andy has created there is a beautiful example of the family going on vacation, giving each other love, and hey, we'll see you next year.
Yeah. So two more for you then. First, I think everybody sort of has a go-to for that. Hey, my day's been really shitty and I need to blow it off and hop in the car and crank it. What are your, give me a couple of your favorite bangers or whatever, not bangers. I don't know.
Well, I mean, right now, what am I listening to? I mean, I go back to all of my old school roots, I will definitely put on some Judas Priest. That's what really gets me going. And I have to say, I mean, what I grew up on, Kiss, right? Because that for me has got things attached to it. It's got feelings attached to it that go all the way back to my childhood. They're in my DNA.
Great.
So you know, that always feels so good. That always feels so good. Detroit Rock City every time.
Yeah. So I'm going to agree with you and then sort of add a couple because we're probably around the same age. I grew up listening
Yep.
to the same stuff, massive Kiss fan, all that stuff. But lately, the last couple of years, Machine Head, especially the record Catharsis, which is exactly what we're talking about. That fucking record is just like put that on and it's you mentioned, earlier antidepressants or whatever. It's
Yes.
Zoloft, audio Zoloft or something for me.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree. Awesome, awesome record. And I have to say, the Euro metal still like, like I say, every day I listen to Nightwish, I mean, give me any kind of Euro metal like that with great melodies and awesome vocals and just this sonic feast. You know what I mean? Give me anything like that. I'm happy.
Right, so lastly then, anybody listening, what words do you have or closing words do you have for anybody listening to this who might be struggling or might be trying to find the way out of the shit?
Sure. Sure. I want them to know that they're not alone. First of all, they're not alone. And to reach out to their friends, reach out to their community. Go to shows. Go to shows. Go and meet with your community. Go meet with your family. You know, and just simply calling up your family and asking somebody else how they're doing, even if you're not having a great time, even if you're struggling, having that interaction is so, so important. So that's what I would recommend. And then I guess lastly, when we reach that crisis point where it feels like there's no way out, there's an incredible resource here in North America and it's to dial 988, and that's available 24 hours a day, and there are absolutely beautiful professionals there waiting for a call. They'll talk you through whatever needs to be. You will feel better right away afterwards. There is no reason for anybody to check out and check off of this planet at this point, because there is so much help for you from your friends, from your family. And if you can't find it there, then look to some of these external sources. There's also myself, my name's Tim Steinruck, and you can reach out to me anytime. I'm on social media all over the place, and I'd be happy to speak with you, whoever it is. But just that interaction with another human being will help you through, you know? Um, I believe, Bruce, that humanity is just like the metal community is. It's one whole organism. Okay, we are all one part of one thing. So when we are feeling like we can't take it anymore, reconnect with that whole that is humanity, and I guarantee you're going to feel better right away.
I loved your four-step thing too, because I think some of them I'm already doing, but that reaching out to people just to check on somebody else, that's pretty cool too. And that kind of, I don't know, maybe gives you a little bit of a feel-good boost that you may need. Is that kind of what I'm taking from it?
100%. It's one of the main reasons that I do coaching. Why do I coach people? Why do I counsel people? Because guess what? It makes me feel good too.
So it's a double whammy.
Exactly.
Tim, I hope that wasn't too bad. I appreciate you taking the time and being honest.
Ah, no problem. I really appreciate it, Bruce, and I wish you just the most awesome time on the cruise.
Oh, I cannot wait. 23 days, by the way.
I know.
Not that I'm counting, but 23 days. So yeah, I'm excited. It'll be a good time.
Right on, brother. Right on. Rock and roll and happy 2025.
You too, man. We'll see you somewhere down the road.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Cheers, brother. Bye.